Chapter 9, Confessions. It had been a couple of weeks since Naruto had met up with the girls shopping that day. Lately he was getting more confused, but not about what was going on with Ino and Sakura. After what he had seen with his clones, he had a pretty good idea what was going on. The rest of the time Naruto had met up with Sakura and Ino plenty of times. He continued to train with Ino as well as hang out with the blonde girl. Naruto also spent time with Sakura, just hanging out and having fun. The thing that was really weighing on the boy's mind was his own personal feelings, which was why he was spending his current time sitting on the stone head of the fourth in deep thought about his situation. The thing was, he was feeling great that someone actually wanted him romantically. There had been this lingering fear ever since he found out about the demon that he might never find someone. After all, what if he got into a relationship and when they found out they couldn't stand him? Of course, over time he pushed that aside, but that lingering doubt had always been in the back of his mind somewhere. It was the same reason he never came out and said to his friends about the fox sealed inside. But that was just a small issue. The major one was that lately he had started to like both girls. Sure, he liked Sakura for the longest time, but it seemed only recently she might have actually returned his feelings somewhat. He wasn't sure how much, but this was something he had been hoping for years, ever since he first met the pink-haired girl. She was his first love, and he had always wanted her to see him as something more. The problem was that lately he had started to like Ino as well. She was beautiful and talented. She held a different type of beauty than Sakura had. Plus, Ino was always so confident and sure of herself. She also was fun to hang out with, something Naruto hadn't known at first, as he had only spent small amounts of time with her before. He had gotten to know the girl a lot better in the past week and a half, and he found that he started to like her more as a person and a friend. It also didn't help that he had starting to look at Ino as more of a woman than a friend either. All those times they had been pressed up against each other while training informed him of just how female she was. There was the smell of her hair, the soft feel of her chest rubbing up against him, and so many other things that made it hard to him to focus while training with her. So the problem was who to choose? The girl he had been after for as long as he had known her, or the girl that he had started to think about? Plus, the other major problem was this: he knew next to nothing about women. It wasn't like he had anyone to tell him stuff growing up, plus anything that came out of Jiraiya's mouth had been too perverted for him to take seriously those years training with him. Naruto knew that he usually did or said the wrong thing. He just acted out without thinking. The times he got Sakura mad was proof of that, but she usually had a point in being mad with him. So what if he was reading things wrong? It wouldn't be the first time he misread the situation. That thing with Cheyenne was proof of that. He felt himself blushing at that. At the time, he had helped the priestess of Demon Country. She had asked him to help her pass her powers on to the next generation. He had agreed, not really thinking on it. He hadn't known what she had implied. It wasn't until on their way back when he noticed the odd looks he kept getting and asked what was up when Kakashi told him what he had basically agreed to. Thankfully, they had been taking Cheyenne back home at the time. Naruto's reaction had been pretty embarrassing, and Cheyenne took pity and told him it had been a joke. Although thinking back, she most likely hadn't been joking. It was that whole thing that was making Naruto run his thoughts in circles. He needed to know what was going on, but could he just come out and say it? What if he said the wrong thing or said something stupid again? So all of this led him to just sitting on the giant stone head trying to come up with a plan. Naruto and Ino. Naruto felt a little nervous as he was with Ino at the moment. She had seemed a bit serious when she asked him to meet with her somewhere private. They were currently in the park just walking, but so far she hadn't said much. Ino, however, looked nervous, and with good reason. Ino had been thinking long and hard on how to get Naruto to notice her, but she wasn't sure if anything had been working. She thought that she noticed some interests in him, but it was hard to tell. He had such an innocence about him that he could get embarrassed easily under the right circumstances. For the past few days she thought they had been making progress, but still Naruto hadn't made a single move. So it was now time for her to make that move before Sakura got up the courage to do the same. She knew that if Sakura confessed, there was a very good chance that Naruto would take it. Plus Naruto was never one to cheat on a girl, not like she would still go after him if he was taken. She wasn't that kind of girl, and there was no way she would throw away her friendship with Sakura like that. So she decided to lay her cards on the table and let Naruto choose. She led him through the park. It was a nice sunny day, and there was a nice breeze moving in. All in all, it would have been the perfect type of day for a real date. Well, if she played her hand right, maybe they would actually be going on dates soon. She led him to a nice area that was unoccupied at the moment. This was good, as she wasn't sure she could do this with an audience, especially if things went bad. Looking around, she noticed that they were totally alone for the moment, so she needed to do this while she had the privacy she needed for what she had planned. Ino stopped a bit as she moved closer to Naruto, who looked a little confused at her for a moment. Ino placed her hands on his shoulders as she looked up at him. She hadn't noticed, but she kind of liked how much taller he was now. "You know, Naruto, I don't know if you noticed, but we've been getting kind of close, right?" Well, yeah, Naruto said, looking down at her, trying not to blush as how close they were physically at the moment. She gave a small smile looking at him. He was kind of cute when he was like this. She reached up gently with one hand and lightly ran her ringers over the black whisker marks on the side of his cheek. It was something she had always wanted to do lately. She wasn't sure why. She thought she might feel some difference, but it was like running a hand over a tattoo. "Well, I think it's time I tell you something." Ino blushed a bit, feeling her heart racing. This was the moment of truth. There was no backing down now. "Lately, I started to really like you, Naruto." Well, I like you too. We're really good friends now," Naruto told her, not sure what to say. "No, not like that. I do like you as a friend, but, well, let me show you." Ino knew that Naruto was more of an actions speak louder than words type. So she reached up a little and gave him a small kiss to his lips. It wasn't anything passionate that you'd write about in books, but it wasn't too timid. She wanted to let him know where she stood with him, to open his eyes to what was before him. She did lose track of time for a moment. His lips, as she would later think back, were very kissable. She pulled back as both teens were blushing full red. Now Naruto couldn't even speak at the moment. That had been his first real kiss, well, with a girl at least. That other one was a memory he would repress and bury as long as he lived. But still, his mind was still processing what had just happened. Although the fact that the kiss had been very nice to him had managed to get through. He had never kissed a girl and their lips were very soft, at least Ino's were. Ino smirked at the reaction of the boy in front of her. That had been her first kiss, and she was glad that it was at least with Naruto. He wouldn't take advantage of situation, one of the many reasons she had started to become attracted to him. "Now do you understand?" Ino asked him softly, to which he nodded his head. He wasn't sure what he could say or should say to something like that. He still cared for Sakura, but that kiss, for the first time in his life he felt a small doubt showing up where there had been none before. Sure, he asked out Sakura all the time, but nothing serious came from it. Was he to chase a girl that might not return his feelings for his entire life? Now he had a very nice girl in front of him that did like him, that wanted to be something more with him. He was so confused he didn't know what to think or feel now. Ino had figured that this would be his reaction. After all, Naruto was always a bit slow on the uptake, and she also wanted to give him time to process things. She wouldn't push him for an answer right away. Pressuring him would be unfair, and she wanted this to be totally his choice. So she backed away a bit and smiled at him a little. "Don't worry, you don't have to say anything yet. Just let your heart tell you what you want and I'll be there. I can wait for you to make up your mind. I know you still got a thing for Sakura, so until you make a choice we'll end it there for now. But I hope that you consider moving on. I may not be Sakura, but I can be just as good to you if you give me a chance," she said softly as she turned and walked away. A part of her hoped that she would hear him coming after her, but she knew that was a long shot. No, this was a better way she and Sakura could dance around this for a long time. Maybe it wasn't fair to put Naruto in the middle for so long. He needed to make a choice. She only hoped that over the past few weeks she had made enough progress with him to have him consider choosing her over Sakura. Well, only time will tell, she figured. Naruto and Sakura. Naruto wished he could focus on the time with Sakura, he really did, but that thing with Ino had been making it hard to focus. Currently the two of them were just going for a walk, nothing special, but it was for him in a way. When he normally was with Sakura, the time with her was always special in his heart because this was time with Sakura and only just them. He just wished he could enjoy the time they were having together a lot more without his mind being all occupied. Sakura, however, did notice that Naruto's mind was elsewhere. She had known him long enough to know that. Mainly, it was just because of how quiet he was. Naruto was only quiet when his mind was too busy to think of something else. She was kind of worried, actually. Whatever it was had to be major, and she had a sinking feeling she might know what it was. For the past week she and Ino had been trying to gain Naruto's attention, but so far the boy hadn't shown any new interests. Then again, she knew how thick he could be to the obvious at times, but at other times he could also surprise you. Maybe now was the time to finally stop with the games and just get to the heart of the matter. She would have told him sooner, but she wanted to make sure of her own feelings before confessing them to him. In the past week she knew that the feelings she had were of no mere crush or infatuation. She did have feelings for Naruto, because honestly, who wouldn't if they got to know the boy? Sure, he had his faults, but everyone did. It was what lay beyond the faults that were amazing. She was pulled out of her thoughts as she realized where they had walked without even noticing it. She saw the 3 stumps where it all began, where Team 7 had been born. How did we get here? Sakura muttered. She thought she had been following Naruto, or had he been following her? She wasn't too sure which one, but while she had been deep in thought they had come across the old training field. Naruto looked up at her voice and noticed where they were as well. A small smile got on his face, remembering their younger days here and the first time they had been formed into a team. I still can't believe you all left me tied to the stump. Sakura couldn't help but let out a giggle at that memory. We did untie you before we got too far. Naruto pouted at her. Hey, that wasn't funny. Why did you guys walk off so far? Well, Kakashi-sensei said he heard how you got out of ropes before and wanted to see if you could get out before we got out of sight. I guess you couldn't. Sakura grinned, trying to fight back the laugh at his face. She couldn't help it. He looked so cute when he pouted like a kid. That's not when most of my body is tied up, Naruto informed her while he made plans to deal with Kakashi later on. He had always wondered, and now he had a reason for a little revenge. Although he could get out or robes, it wasn't until later when he learned how to get out of his whole body being tied up. His escapes from the hospital sure were good ninja training for him. Naruto looked back at the field, remembering training here, the 2 bells tests and everything else they had been through. They had a lot of happy times here, although it was kind of sad now. There was a missing member of the team. Sure, Sai fit in really well, but he couldn't replace Sasuke. Sakura saw the look on his face and knew where his thoughts were going. She reached down and held his hand. This surprised the boy as he looked at her, and she only smiled back. I know we'll save him even if we have to beat the sense into him, Sakura told him, making him smile a bit more. And I hit a lot harder when he knew me, so maybe my fists can scramble his brains back into line. Naruto knew just how hard she could hit, and for a moment he pitied Sasuke if he ever got hit by her. Knowing him, he might just dismiss Sakura as the same girl she had been when he left. That would prove to be a major mistake by him. Sakura looked back to the field and smiled. It seems so long ago since when we first started, and we've come a long way. I still remember that bell test and how you used shadow clones. I was honestly surprised and secretly impressed that you used that. Really? Naruto liked hearing about this. Sakura nodded. I didn't say anything, so sorry for that. I thought I said that I know you forgave me, but I have to forgive myself first, Sakura told him. I'm not sure I'll ever will really, but I decided to learn from the past mistakes. Plus that wasn't the only time I've been impressed by you. The fight with Kiba and then with Niji, I bet most thought you would fail, but for some reason I wasn't so sure. I just had this feeling that you had a chance, and when the fight started to go in your favor I was so excited for you. When you won I was happy for you, I think I was standing on my feet clapping for you. Naruto wished he could have seen that moment in his life had been one of the greatest moments of his life, but to hear this from Sakura it made it seem even better. Then there was that time you stopped me from making the biggest mistake of my life, Sakura said a little sadly. I can't believe I was so stupid to think I could just leave the village going after him. I'm lucky you caught me and went with me, although I don't think I'll ever see Jiraiya in the same light ever again because of it. Naruto chuckled, remembering that impromptu mission to Rice looking for the Sound Village. He had warned her of what Jiraiya was like, but you had to experience yourself to really believe it. They had met the Fuma clan there in Sasami. He wondered how she was doing now. He tried not to blush, remembering the first time seeing the pretty red head, or how he had accidentally felt her up while saving her. That was the first time he touched a girl's. Well, he better not think about it or else he might get a nosebleed. It was that mission that you really impressed me, Naruto, Sakura said, remembering that time in one of Orochimaru's lairs. How she had nearly given up and had died, but he had saved her yet again too. He always saved her, it seemed, and she wished she could have done more back then. In fact, you kind of inspired me to become a better ninja that day. She blushed a bit at her little confession, but it was true. All during that mission he never gave up. Even when things were at their darkest, he never gave up and fought on. It was that mission that made her realize that was what Naruto was. He never gave up. He always looked forward and moved on, never looking back, never with regrets. Naruto felt a bit embarrassed at this. He scratched the back of his head, but it felt nice that Sakura was saying these things to him. She turned away for a moment, almost as thought she was getting herself ready for something. He wasn't sure what it was, but when she turned to face him her face was more serious now. Something was going on, and he wasn't sure what it was. There is something else I wanted to say to you, Sakura said as she tried to ignore the pounding of her heart. She was nervous and she put all her focus into this. She had practiced this so many times in her head, so many different ways. She wanted to get everything out without missing a detail and let him know everything. I know that life has been hard for you, and I know the reason why. I wish I had known about your burden a lot sooner. I would have wanted to help you a lot more with it. I just wish I could have done a lot more. Sakura-chan. Naruto knew that she knew part of his secret. He spoke out about how he and Gaara were the same and had said the word Jinchuriki. Plus, given that he had hurt her on the bridge when he battled Orochimaru, well, he wasn't sure what she saw, but he had a feeling that she knew enough. I don't know everything, but I wish you would tell me. I want to know everything, Naruto. I want to know more about you, the real you, because. Sakura felt the tears forming, and she hated herself for it. She hated how she cried too easily. She was always too emotional, but the thought of him being alone, all those years of the burden inside of him, it was painful to think of it. I care for you, Naruto. I care for you more than just a friend. You mean so much to me, more than I can tell you, and I want you to know how I feel. Sakura reached up to cup his face as both teens blushed. Sakura needed to do one more thing. If she didn't do this, she would never forgive herself. She leaned up and gently pressed her lips to Naruto as she tasted his lips, the first kiss of her life. Naruto was too shocked to really do anything. This was one of his dreams come true for him. He nearly forgot to kiss her back, but he did. That kiss with Ino had helped him know what to do a bit more. It was short and gentle, but both of them were blushing a lot after it. Sakura placed a hand on his chest. I know I haven't been always good to you in the past, but I've been better, and I don't know if you still want me. But I just wanted you to know what I felt, so take your time and think on it. I can wait. Sakura slowly took a few steps back as she turned to walk home. When you're ready to make a decision, no matter what, I'll still always be there for you. Naruto didn't know what to say or think. His mind was still thinking that he had actually gotten a kiss from Sakura, of all people. His heart wouldn't stop pounding in his ears, and before he pulled himself out of it, she was gone. He wanted to run after her, but then he remembered Ino and the kiss she gave him. He stood there for a while before he muttered the first words that came to him. What the hell am I going to do now? Fourth's head. So here he was again, Naruto sitting back on the stone head of the fourth Hokage, only now his problems were both simplified and yet even weighed more on him. It was confirmed both girls liked him, both girls had confessed to him, and yet what was he to do? Ino knew more about him than anyone, and she didn't shy away from it. She had embraced it, and he never felt like that since Iruka had proclaimed that Naruto wasn't the demon all those years ago in the forest with Mizuki. To know that a girl liked him, knowing all those dark secrets and cared for him, touched his heart. He felt a warmth in his chest knowing someone could care about him, knowing all that stuff. Then there was Sakura, the girl he had wanted since before he knew what love really was. She knew enough of his secret that she didn't care about it either. In fact, like the medic she was, she wanted to heal the damage done to him from carrying his burden. The thought that the girl he cared for since childhood now cared for him back, well, he was happier than words could describe. He liked both girls, but what would he do now? How could he pick just one of them over the other? He had remembered how hard Sakura took it when Sasuke left. She had been so hurt and depressed, he had never seen her like that. Although he did try to help her out, nothing had really worked. It was true that she eventually got over it, but he still hated Sasuke for doing that to her. He couldn't bring himself to hurt someone like that, which was where the problem was now. If he picked Ino, Sakura would be hurt, and the thought of him hurting Sakura made him feel lower than dirt. How could he do something that he knew would hurt that girl? But what if he chose Sakura then? He had become close to Ino lately, and he really didn't want to mess that up. He didn't think he could hurt his friends, and Ino had recently become a very good friend. Hell, who was he kidding? She had become maybe something more than just a friend. It just wasn't fair. Why, after a lifetime of being alone and dateless, did this come into play, and now of all times? Now he had two really cute girls after him, both were good friends, and he didn't want to hurt either of them. He felt like he wanted to bang his head against something, but that wouldn't work. He sighed as he fell onto his back, staring up at the sky. The sun was starting to fade as the land entered the twilight hour. Normally he would enjoy the view, but he just had too much on his mind. He thought of going for advice, but had anyone actually been in this type of relationship before? He couldn't think of any. Hell, most people he knew were single. Hokage Tower. Tsunade hummed to herself as she went, though the reports normally she would hate doing this, but her mood had been much better lately. Of course there was a reason for that, not that she was telling anyone. Although Shizune of course knew. After she returned after a week's vacation, she had come into their home to see Tsunade on Jiraiya's lap in a deep kiss. That had been a bit embarrassing, but the young woman seemed fine with it. Almost as if she had seen worse in her time. True, as a medic they had seemed some horrible things, but Shizune usually was very easily embarrassed. Well, it was no matter for Tsunade. It wasn't like she could keep that secret from her, not that it was really a secret, it was just easier to not be so open about things. Well, that, and for her and Jiraiya it was kind of fun as they snuck around the village. People seeing them eating or drinking together would assume they were just two old friends hanging out. They did that all the time before she opened her heart to him. Plus it made them feel young again, like a couple of teens dating behind the backs of their parents. Of course, if they had tried that back when they were genin, they might have had to date behind their parents' backs. At least she would have. Her mother and father, when alive, most likely wouldn't have approved of Jiraiya. Not that they really got a chance to meet him. Both had died soon after her little brother had been born, so she had to raise him on her own for a long time. She cast a small look to the few photos on her desk of her brother. Was for one another of a young Naruto who had taken over that place in her heart. She had placed that on her desk the first day Naruto had left for his training. She just never got it in her heart to put it somewhere in her home. Just something about his smiling face made her stress lessen a bit. It was too bad that the real one usually gave her stress in person. She sighed as she got back to the reports. She was just glancing at them, only reading if they were important. If she had to read every line of every report, she would never get through them. Plus, she was nearly done for the night, then she would go home and relax. Maybe a nice hot bubble bath would be in order for the night. That sounded good to her. Tsunade jumped when suddenly she felt a kiss on the back of her neck. She turned around to see a grinning Jiraiya. Jiraiya. Damn it, how many times do I have to tell you to not surprise me at the office like that? She demanded. Although angry on the outside, she felt the opposite on the inside. But she was Hokage, so she had to put up a face. Oh please, you don't think I never caught Minato with Kushina in here? Jiraiya giggled, remembering that. I think it was soon after he was Hokage that I caught them in here. Hell, I think the boy might have been conceived on that desk. Tsunade looked at the desk she had worked years on. That had been the most disturbing thing she had ever known. She glared at her teammate and now she supposed boyfriend. I hate you sometimes. Now I have to get a new desk. He got that look she knew all too well in his eyes as he leaned down with an arm draped over her. Well, we could maybe break it in ourselves. She had to repress that urge. After decades of no sex, she had forgotten how good it had been. The fact that Jiraiya still had the sex drive of a teenager was both a medical miracle and very useful. The medic in her had been tempted to study what allowed him to stay like this in his advanced age. But it might turn every male into a pervert as bad as him. That would doom the human species, as women wouldn't let most males close to them. Still, that bath was starting to take second place for a moment, but she couldn't allow any urges to let him turn her into a pervert. She wouldn't be caught doing anything like that in here. They weren't teenagers. She picked up his arm and flung it back with a smirk. Nice try, but no. He sighed as he sat on her desk. Oh well, maybe another time. So you've been hanging around a lot more recently. She smirked as if she didn't know the reason. Thought you wanted to keep the spy network up. Trying to get rid of me already? She smiled at her, but then shrugged. Had something else on my mind, plus I keep in touch. Although I'm thinking of passing on the torch, I'm not getting any younger and I've been training a possible new recruit. This surprised Tsunade. She never thought that Jiraiya of all people would leave his spy network in the hands of anyone. Then she thought of something that actually concerned her. You're not teaching Naruto, are you? Jiraiya laughed. Oh hell no. I may love the boy and he's my finest apprentice, but the boy has about the same talent for spy work as he does for Genjutsu. He's just too honest and open for the job. No, I found someone that can be deceptive, emotionless when he needs to be, and has already got some spy training. She blinked, trying to think of who this was. Okay, I give up. Who? That new teammate of Naruto's, Sai. Sai. Tsunade yelled out. Okay, I admit that he's come a long way, but aren't you concerned about his ties to Danzo still? Yeah, but I think Naruto has been a good influence on the boy. Jiraiya had planned to test the boy out a bit more to see where his loyalties laid in the village. But the boy had a good skills for this, and he wasn't well known outside of the village or even in it. The perfect spy was someone that could blend into the crowd and not stand out. The only reason he never bothered was because of how so many knew his face. It was kind of pointless. Well, it is your spy ring, so you'll know best, but what are you training him on? There isn't much that goes on in the village, is there? She asked. He chuckled as he pulled a few sheets of paper and silently passed them to her. She raised an eyebrow, wondering what he was getting at. She glanced at the papers and then she got a lot more interested in them. These are play-by-play reports on Naruto's little adventures with those two girls. He smirked, seeing her read them with interests. He already had copies of these as he was using them as the plot for his next book. That boy would help him make his next novel next year at this rate. Well, maybe there is something going on. Tsunade chuckled as she leaned back in her chair reading on. She never thought of the advantages to having a boyfriend who was a spy master before now. Chapter 10, Battle of the Heart. After the confessions of the two girls and his time thinking on the fourth's head, Naruto had barely slept at all that night. He kept tossing and turning thinking about his problem. He wasn't sure he could pick one girl over the other. They were both of his precious people, and to him that meant more than gold. Those precious to him were the most important things in his life. Growing up alone had taught him the true value of friendship. First it had been the third Hokage, then the people at the ramen stand, then Irika. Slowly over time he got more and more friends. The bonds he formed started to fill the gap in his life. Now not one but two girls were like him. This was an odd feeling for Naruto. Sure, a little ego boost did happen, and he had thought about what it would be like for girls to like him. Seeing Sasuke with all those fangirls all those years did make him a little jealous of all that kind of attention. But the fantasy and the reality were two totally different things. Maybe if they were just two girls he didn't know, it wouldn't be so hard. But he was on a team with one and had formed a stronger friendship with the other. All in all, Naruto was pretty much stuck. So when morning came he was glad he had nothing to do that day. He was tired from a lack of sleep and mentally tired from constantly thinking about his problem. In fact, he was getting a headache as he was thinking in circles the entire time. Normally he would train, but he really wasn't up to it, so he decided to try and seek out help again. He had to ask someone about this and get their opinion on matters. So after showering, having breakfast, and then changing into his civilian clothing, he left in search of someone he knew. He thought of Irika, but he would most likely be teaching a class, so Naruto would see him after school was out for the day. He went to track down Jiraiya. Even though the man was a self-proclaimed super pervert, Naruto had no one else that knew more about women. It was just how desperate he was to find an answer to go to that old pervert for help with women. But for some reason Naruto couldn't find him in the usual spots. The river where he spied on women playing in the water, the hot springs where he liked to peep, the bars when he tried to pick up women, even the adult bookstores if the man was checking on the sales of his novels. So far no luck, making the boy think his master was out on another mission. He sighed in defeat as he walked alone the streets, wondering if he would find any of his friends. He thought about maybe Sai had more books or knew of books on something like this. So he checked the library, but no luck. Maybe he was out painting someone, Naruto figured as he slumped down on the steps to think on who else he could ask. It was just blind luck that two people he knew actually saw him first as he was sitting on the steps of the library thinking about his problem. "Oh Naruto, what are you doing here?" Naruto looked up to see both Kakashi and Yamato, and he brightened up on seeing them. "Kakashi-sensei, Yamato-sensei. When did you two get back?" "Just today." Kakashi smiled at the boy. "The mission went well and we dropped off the report." "Oh hey, did you see Bachan by any chance?" Naruto asked, hoping that the Hokage would be in. If anyone might help him understand the mind of a woman, then maybe another woman was needed. Kakashi was a bit surprised by the question. "Now that you mention it, no, she seemed to be out for the moment when we dropped in our report." Yamato nodded. It was odd that the Hokage hadn't been in. Shizune said something about her having an appointment of some kind. "So we gave her our report and left. Although she did seem a little odd when we asked where the Hokage was." "Noticed that too, did you?" Kakashi stated as he thought back to it. Shizune had seemed to blush a bit, almost as if she was embarrassed about something. But what could be so bad that would make her do that? Maybe Tsunade was out drinking or something, or maybe gambling. But it was still early and the Hokage couldn't have started this early in the day. Usually she waited until at least after work before the woman would indulge in her personal vices. Or maybe he was just reading too much into things, so Kakashi shrugged it off. Oh. Naruto was disappointed by that. First he couldn't find Jiraiya and then Tsunade. Maybe they were out on another mission together? But so soon again, that was kind of weird. Something wrong? Yamato asked the young man before him. Naruto slumped his shoulders and nodded. Yeah, you can say that. Do any of you know anything about girls? Both Kakashi and Yamato shared a look between them, both feeling a little embarrassed on the subject. Well, a bit, Kakashi admitted as he scratched the back of his head. Naruto gave him a dirty look. Ero Sennin's novels don't count. I have had girls in the past, just for the record. Kakashi said flatly. Honestly, did people think that he was still a virgin at 29? Sure, he didn't have a girl every other week or something, but still he had experiences with women in his life. It's just that he was careful about relationships. After all, Rin had been in love with him, or maybe it had just been a strong crush. He wasn't sure, but he knew that he hadn't deserved her affections when she went missing and later presumed dead on a mission she went off on. He had closed himself off for any emotional relationship after that. It was just safer that way. The life of a ninja was filled with death. Naruto, however, had never even seen Kakashi on a date, let alone any real personal history about him. Really? I can vouch for that, Yamato said as he remembered their Umbu days together. I still think Rabbit has a thing for you. Huh, Rabbit? Naruto asked, confused. Kakashi coughed as he felt a little uncomfortable of that being brought up. She's someone in Umbu, hence the codename. Let's just say that sometimes when you're on the same team for long periods of time, certain things can happen. Yamato tried not to laugh at how lightly his senpai told it. The two of them had once been caught by enemy ninja while in the act while on a routine scouting mission. Both had thought it was a safe area. They were bored and well, one thing led to another. He still remembered coming onto the scene with a furious Rabbit, angry at being interrupted before the end. Plus it had been comical to see them in nothing but their masks and half naked. It was never spoke out of that group for fear of both Kakashi and Rabbit's fury, but it was still an inside joke among them. Oh, so it's not odd to have feelings for a teammate? Naruto felt a bit better about chasing Sakura all this time. Kakashi chuckled, knowing what the boy was thinking. Yes, it happens, although usually after some time, and it doesn't always last. Sometimes it's just a simple hook up, but a few times something can be made of it. But there are dangers to that too. Your emotional attachment can lead you to make choices you shouldn't make or wouldn't normally make. It can cost you the lives of others on your team or cost you the mission. Yamato had to nod his head. Everyone knew the stories, but it can't be helped. They may be ninja, but they were also human, and humans could feel what they would always feel. Naruto had never really thought about it before, but in all honesty, it didn't really change much with him. Not matter what, he would do anything to protect those important to him, even at the cost of the mission. Well, the thing is, I kind of have a problem. Naruto trailed off, not sure how to go about it. Oh? Kakashi was interesting now given where this conversation was going. Yeah. See, Sakura-chan said that she liked me and she kissed me. Naruto blushed bright red thinking back on it. Yamato looked at Kakashi as he sighed. You were right, senpai, it did happen after all without anyone pointing it out to them. I told you that her feelings for him were there, she just hides it, although this is a bit sooner. I thought it would take her longer. So what's the problem then? If it's because you're on the same team, you never hinted at that before. Kakashi asked Naruto. Well, that's the thing, you see, Ino-chan also confessed that she liked me and kissed me too. Now both men stood there just staring at the young man. Say again? Kakashi asked, not sure he had heard that right. Since when did Ino have anything to do with Naruto? What had been going on while he had been away on that mission for this to suddenly develop? Naruto repeated what he had said, so there was no doubt that Kakashi had heard things right. I think you need to start at the beginning, Yamato said to the young ninja. Training Area 5. It was one of their usual training sessions together, but the atmosphere between Sakura and Ino was anything but totally friendly. For years after Naruto left and Sakura started her training, they would get together and spar. They started this when Ino had gone into medical training as well, although after Ino completed the basic qualifications it lessened a bit. But that was because unlike Sakura, Ino still held a position in an active team. But still over the years they continued to spar now and then. However, with the issue of Naruto between them, this training session had an undertone to it all. Sakura pulled on her black fighting gloves as she got herself ready. So any limitations? Ino finished stretching herself out, the usual non-lethal stuff only, but any else goes. Fine with me, Sakura stated as the two of them got ready. At first it was just a staring match. Each young woman was looking for a hint of what the other might be up to. Plans and counterplans were quickly being made and then thrown away. It all depended on the opening moves that would start the tempo of the sparring. Ino decided that she wanted to start things off. She quickly pulled out several blunted kunai and threw them at Sakura as she moved off at a run. Sakura saw the opening move and drew her own kunai. She threw them and each of hers hit all of Ino's kunai, deflecting them all. When that was done, Sakura turned to see where Ino was running and with her other fist smashed it into the ground. The earth tore itself to pieces as the path of destruction went after Ino. Not for the first time Ino wished she had that kind of monstrous strength, but Sakura always did have the better chakra control to learn that. Ino jumped the growing fissure and while in the air threw several shuriken. She knew that Sakura would dodge those as she hid behind one of the large pieces of earth that had been pushed out of the ground. She knew that Sakura would most likely power her way towards her, so she had to play it smart. You couldn't go toe-to-toe against Sakura unless you were fast enough to avoid getting hit. Thankfully, her training with Naruto had helped her in her close combat skills. She just hoped she had learned enough. Ino sensed the attack coming and jumped as the rock was smashed to pieces. She continued to jump back, getting some distance to see Sakura running at her. Ino didn't waste time as she threw two kunai at her to get her to dodge. But to her surprise, the kunai went right through Sakura. Damn it, it's a clone, then the original is crap. Ino mentally cursed as she jumped out of the way of a falling Sakura. She had smashed the rock, and with all the dust and smoke, Ino hadn't seen the simple clone being done. All ninja knew that simple jutsu, but honestly, what Chunin used them? It had been unexpected, and Ino was thinking maybe Sakura was also trying to play it the way Naruto did. It didn't surprise the blonde that Sakura would have picked up a few things over all that time spent on Team 7. So Sakura had used the clone to distract while she had jumped into the air and was attempting to get Ino from above. Thankfully, it had still been daylight and Ino had managed to catch Sakura's shadow. If this had been night, it would have been more difficult. Still, the impact had been impressive as Sakura destroyed more of the ground. Not too bad, forehead. Ino smirked at the other girl. Looks like you're using that large head of yours for something. Sakura got a visible tick on said head, but she remained smiling even if the smile was a bit strained. Well, thank you, although are you ever going to get on the offensive? I nearly got you with that. You must be slowing down. Now it was Ino's turn to get a tick and force a smile. Well then, let's just see, shall we? Ino threw out a small smoke bomb at the other girl. When it exploded, she dashed in. It wouldn't blind Sakura for long, but she wanted to get in under Sakura's guard while she could. It had worked as Ino managed to dodge a fist and try for an elbow to Sakura's gut, but she felt nothing but air. Sakura had stepped out of the way. Ino jumped to her, feeling the wind against her head from Sakura's punch, just missing her. The smoke was starting to clear, and so Ino took her shot. She could see a form of Sakura starting to appear, so she jumped at it and lashed out with a kick. Just when she felt it connect with something, she realized that Sakura caught the leg. Ino's eyes widened as the dust finally cleared and saw Sakura's smirking face as she held Ino's leg. Sakura threw Ino with her strength, sending the girl flying, although thankfully Sakura pulled her strength. Ino managed to right herself in the air and land on her feet, but it had been close. But Ino was only getting started. She ran at Sakura as the other girl picked up a large piece of earth and threw it. Ino was able to easily dodge it as she got closer. She knew that Sakura wouldn't give her time to use her any kind of mind jutsu, so it would have to be another way. When she was close enough, Sakura threw out a punch that Ino dodged. Now it was time for Ino's training with Naruto to pay off. Sakura had strength, but only if she could use it, so Ino managed to grip Sakura's wrist and pull her arm around into a modified hammerlock. She then used her other arm to wrap around Sakura's neck from behind. "Got you now," Ino said triumphantly. "Good thing all that training with Naruto paid off. You know, it was always fun pressing our bodies together like this with him." Ino hoped the jab would get Sakura's anger going. Anger always made you make mistakes. Although it did make Sakura a little jealous, she was controlling herself. "One question, did you really think I could only put my strength into my fists?" Sakura raised a leg and slammed it into the ground, shattering it with an explosion of power. Ino lost her grip as she also lost her footing from the ground shifting. She had forgotten that Sakura could do that, mainly due to the fact that Sakura hardly ever used her strength with her kicks. It was only the start of things between them as they continued to spar against each other. After some time, the two girls had ended up panting heavily as they each were resting against the same large tree. Both girls looked dirty and their clothing was tattered in a few places. They were also sporting a few small injuries. Mainly just light bruising that both of them could easily fix when they got their breath back. It had been a long and hard-fought fight, but both girls were just too tired to continue on. "I don't get it," Sakura breathed out finally. "Why are you fighting so hard?" "I could ask you the same thing," Ino smirked as Sakura mirrored her. "I just thought that you were doing this king of because someone else actually showed interests in him." "No," Sakura shook her head slightly. "I think it only just made me open my eyes and admit to myself the feelings that I guess have been there slowly growing over time." "I knew there was a drawback to that thick forehead of yours," Ino said in good humor. "Still beat you in the medical test," Sakura said smugly, knowing how Ino had studied very hard but only to get average marks while Sakura had gotten high marks in their training. Not that Ino minded, she had learned some good skills, but Sakura was the natural medic between them. "So I guess this fight proved nothing in the end," Ino sighed as she rested her head against the hard tree bark, ignoring the feel of it pressing against a bruise on her head. She was too tired to really care about being uncomfortable at the moment. "So what are we going to do? Do you really think he can make a choice?" Sakura thought about it long and hard. "Honestly, I'm not sure. He doesn't like to hurt others." "Yeah, he's a good guy like that." Ino smiled at one of the good qualities that she really liked about him. There was a heavy silence between the two of them for a moment before Sakura was the first to speak. "You know, I'm a bit jealous of you." "Huh?" Ino tried to turn to face the pink-haired girl, surprised. "Because of what you tried to do, you have a deeper understanding of him. I don't think I'll ever get to understand him as well as you've gotten to. All his dreams, all his pain, even all the things he doesn't try to burden with us with. I wish I knew, just so I could help him heal from whatever pain that's inside of him." She felt the sting in her eyes from tears but tried not to cry. She always cried too easily and she hated that about herself. A ninja wasn't supposed to show emotion, but she wore her emotions all the time. "I know that there are pains he must go through that he doesn't show us, but he's never opened up about them. You, on the other hand, know all too well and can understand. Here he's coming from better than me." Sakura gave a humorless laugh. "I'm his teammate and yet I still don't know him as well as you do." Ino thought about what Sakura was saying before she decided to say something. "Put it like that, I'm envious of you too. I mean, I may know more about what goes on inside of that thick skull of his, some which is pretty heartbreaking, and that damn fox scares the hell out of me, but at least you have actual experiences with him. You've been there with him. Hell, most of his happiest memories are of Team 7, you know. I wish I had been there when you got to experience all those little things that he cherishes." Both girls thought about that. It was a pure case of the grass is greener in a way with them. In a way, we each have half of Naruto's life, Sakura said thoughtfully. It's too bad we just can't share that with each other. Ino's eyes widened at that as her mind started to race with an idea. She hadn't really used it in a while, but it was possible with her. She managed to force her body next to Sakura, who looked at her curiously. She noticed that look in Ino's eyes. She was up to something, and Sakura wasn't sure she liked what her friend and rival might be thinking. Well, why don't we? Ino asked her. Sakura blinked a few times. Why don't we what? Share, Ino said, as thought it was the simplest thing in the world. Look, we might not be able to decide things with a fight, but maybe we can at least share each other's experiences. My dad has been teaching me more of the family mind techniques, and one of them was how to share information between people. It was a jutsu that was used to secretly pass information between people without any type of interception. When you couldn't be caught with a scroll or couldn't speak out loud. The only problem was that Ino hadn't trained in it all that much. She was confident she could do it, especially if Sakura was willing. Plus, she would like to have Sakura's experiences with Naruto. She wanted to experience those times with Naruto from someone else's perspective, because in a way it would be like she had been there. Is that safe? Sakura asked, mainly due to the fact that the last time Ino tried some kind of mental trick on her, inner Sakura had stepped in and kicked Ino out. She wasn't sure if her inner self would do the same. Then again, she hadn't seen much of her inner self the past few years. As Sakura got more confident and acted more on what she was truly feeling and thinking, inner Sakura got more quiet with less to say. Hell, she wasn't even sure what the hell that was. Sakura once looked it up in the medical books to see if she suffered from some kind of personality disorder. Thankfully, none of the medical books said she was crazy. Are you going to behave? Sakura mentally thought directly to her inner self. I want this as much as you, so I'll be good now. Get on with it. I want to see what the blonde saw. Was the replay from inner Sakura. And as a side note, you haven't seen me much because you're finally being true to yourself. That's all I am. I speak the truth you keep denying to yourself. Ino had been thinking about it while Sakura was having the short conversation with herself. Yeah, it should be. Just keep your mind open to mind and don't fight it. That makes it harder for me to concentrate. Sakura sighed and nodded. All right, so how do you do this? Just hold still. Ino positioned herself for it. She went through a few hand seals, and when she was done she placed her fingertips on the sides of Sakura's head as the blonde closed her eyes and started to concentrate. At first there was nothing, but then there was a strange sensation, almost like you were falling out of your body, not floating, more like gravity had been reversed, and yet your body felt getting bigger and in focus. It was such a strange sensation that it soon got to the point that it was indescribable. Then the memories started to float through between them. Sakura saw everything Ino had, and the memories were crisp and clear. Unlike how memories faded with time, these were taken from Ino's inner mind, where things were always in prime condition. It was one of the effects of the jutsu, as it helped to ensure that no information was lost. So Sakura saw and felt everything Ino had, while the other girl had been trapped in Naruto's mind. She felt Ino's fear at seeing the Kyuubi, and Sakura didn't blame her. She had seen Naruto go for tails, but this was totally different. This had been the evil that had given Naruto such a hard time in life. She saw Ino look through all the memories, and Sakura's heart broke as Ino's broke. She cried when Ino had cried. Sakura was no longer sure if she was feeling her own emotions at what Ino had experienced or was simply mirroring what Ino experienced. For Ino it was the same thing. She saw all the things from Sakura's point of view. She laughed at how Sakura had secretly enjoyed the little things Naruto did, like the eraser trick against Kakashi that first day. She saw memories that she hadn't seen in Naruto's mind. Then again, she hadn't seen every memory, so the new stuff she was experiencing was a treat for her. She felt Sakura's annoyance, and her feelings for Sasuke and Ino winced. She had been like that once herself, and seeing it a second time through Sakura made her realize just how much they both had grown up. Then she came to when Naruto went for tails. She hadn't seen this, and the sight of Naruto like that was nearly too much for her. Ino experienced the moment Sakura's heart was breaking at how far Naruto would go for the promise she felt as thought she was the one running to Naruto begging him to stop before a tail came and hit her arm. Then something else happened as the two girls were experiencing things from the other's perspective. They were feeling just what the other felt about Naruto. They were not only getting to know Naruto more, but they were also understanding the other in such a personal and intimate manner. The mental link stayed open longer than was needed as both girls explored the life of the other. Ino felt Sakura's despair and loneliness as a child. Sakura saw how Ino views their friendship and rivalry. Then they both felt each other's emotions about how they felt about Naruto, and they stopped. Ino pulled back as they both stared at the other. They looked at each other almost as if seeing the other for the first time. It was all kind of a jumble for the moment, but what had happened forever changed their view of the other. They had seen into the soul of the other. Every personal secret was revealed to them. Both were naked to the other, now totally exposed with no masks to hide behind. And they both knew and finally understood where the other was feeling with Naruto. "You're in love with him," both of them said at the exact same time. Both girls slumped a bit against the tree thinking about what they had learned. Both of them loved Naruto, and the experiences they just gained only seemed to make it worse. With what they had shared, their emotions were even more powerful as they were now backed up by the emotions of the other. Ino had made a mistake in leaving the link between them open for so long. The jutsu was meant only for short times, not to have it opened for as long as it had just been done. The side effects of the jutsu was that the longer the connection, the harder it was for the individuals to know who they were. With all the different memories that got passed between two people, sometimes people in the past had lost their sense of self totally. Thankfully, Ino hadn't gotten that far, but she had gone far enough for the two of them to know the other like they were now both two halves of a whole. Both of them now held the memories, emotions, and experiences of the other. Not all of them, but enough of it had been passed between the two of them that changed things now. How could the other have Naruto now? If one of them got him, the other would be glad, but the heartache would be so much worse. Not only that, but the other would most likely know what the other was going through and would feel for their pain. How is Sakura to deny her best friend the first real love of her life? Ino was thinking the same thing. She knew just how much Sakura had fallen in love with Naruto too. It had just made a complicated position even worse. "Now what are we going to do?" Sakura finally asked, not sure herself. "I don't know what I'd do if he picked you over me feeling like this, plus I couldn't look you in the eye if he picked me." "Yeah. God, what a dumb idea that was," Ino muttered to herself. She wished she had paid more attention to that training of her father. Well, she would now. He kept saying that the mind was a very delicate thing, and now she was learning the hard way about that. You know, he has to pick on no matter what, Sakura said, thinking back to what she learned. He's been alone for so long, he needs actual love in his life. Someone that can give him that love. He deserves it. It hurts just remembering all those years alone. I know what it's like, but I at least had my parents. Yeah, it was, Ino muttered, remembering Sakura's memories of childhood before they had met. She had no idea that Sakura had known the same loneliness as Naruto. That same hollow pain in your chest was horrible. It felt totally empty and dark, yet there was this throbbing pain that came from the emptiness. He deserves to be happy, Sakura stated, and Ino could only nod. But then, what do we do about the situation? After sharing that with you, I feel even closer to you. I don't want you to get hurt. Ino thought about it. They had shared something profound with each other that went beyond words. She saw Sakura in a light she hadn't seen before. When you truly understood another person, it changed your views of things. We shared so much, and yet we can't share the love we feel for the same man, Ino thought bitterly. Then she blinked. Was that the answer? Well, it might depend on if Sakura would go for it, but it also depended on what Naruto would think on it. I have another idea, Ino said. Oh god, now what? Sakura moaned, not sure she could take another idea. Ino looked at the pink-haired medic with a small smile on her face. Well, tell me what you think about this. Chapter 11, 3 Hearts Beat as One. So what do you think? Naruto asked as he had just finished off explaining everything that had been going on lately. He hoped that both Yamato and Kakashi could at least give him something to go on. He was so confused and torn between both girls that he had no idea what to do. Yamato looked to Kakashi. He had no idea what to do in a situation like this. He had no experience when it came to a problem like this. He wasn't even sure that besides Naruto he had ever known anyone with this kind of problem. Sure, maybe there were times you liked two women but you choose one early on before you got into the relationship. But having two women after you at the same time that you both liked as well? That was something that had never happened to him. He wasn't sure if Naruto was blessed or cursed with that. Kakashi closed his eyes and thought this was certainly a nasty place to be. It was a true rock and a hard place, and he doubted the whole looking left and right at the same time thing would work in this moment. I have to admit you're in a bind here, Kakashi finally said, although that was a disappointment to Naruto. He already knew that much himself. Are you sure you're not certain which girl you like more? I have no idea. Before I would have picked Sakura-chan, but lately things with Ino-chan have been very nice. Naruto trailed off thinking on that. Normally he would have picked the girl he had feelings for since he was a kid. But Ino wasn't just the friend anymore, she was obviously something more to him. Well, you can't pick that then, and knowing those two, picking one wouldn't have good results either. Kakashi still remembered how Sakura and Ino were over Sasuke. The fact that they were both after the same boy again could mean a restart to that whole rivalry. Yamato looked a little lost as he hadn't been around during that time. Kakashi waved it off as he would explain things later. Looking back at Naruto, he could see that the same thoughts were running through the boy's head now. It would be very troubling for Naruto and the team to go through something like that. If he picked Ino, he couldn't see Sakura taking it well, and it would affect the team. But then again, if he picked Sakura and he later found himself liking Ino more, then that would start to get in the way as well. This was why Kakashi felt that unless you could be an adult about it, relationships inside of teams were risky. Well, the way I see things, your options are limited, Kakashi said, looking up at the sky slightly. You can't avoid them, so you will have to pick no matter what the outcome. You could say go on a date with them. After the 2 dates you would get a better idea of how it would be with each girl, and it would make for a more informed choice. You could also choose not to date either of them. Huh? Naruto blinked at that. Kakashi shrugged. If you're not ready to date or be in a relationship, then maybe you shouldn't force yourself into one. At any rate, I think those are your only choices in this. But whatever you do, I highly suggest that you let the girl you don't pick down easy. Heartbreak is never a good thing, and you can't prevent all the pain, but you can make it easier. My only choices, huh? Naruto said, a bit depressed at that. He honestly couldn't see any other alternative than what Kakashi has told him. Well, unless you can date both girls, I don't see any other option, Kakashi said, trying to lighten the mood seeing how depressed his student was. Sakura and Ino, so just how do you expect to pull this off with him? This is your great idea after all. Sakura asked Ino. Well, just go over to his place and explain what we came up with, Ino said simply. We? Sakura asked her friend. So I came up with it, but you're going along with it, Ino told her. They were currently in a small examining room in the hospital taking care of their injuries from their little sparring match earlier. Since going to Naruto looking all cut up, bruised and messy wouldn't be the best way to start things off. So they managed to get a small examining room that wasn't in use to heal up. Ino had healed up Sakura, and now she was returning the favor. Ino had to admit at how easy Sakura managed to get them a room for this. Then again Sakura spent more time here, plus Sakura was the one most said would replace Tsunade in the world of medicine one day. Ino knew it was true. Sure, both of them had trained under Tsunade, but Sakura had thrown herself into it full force. Of course now Ino really knew what had motivated the girl thanks to the shared memories. In her place Ino had to admit she would do the same. In fact she was. She had been spending time trying to catch up. Of course maybe she should find her own little thing to do because she knew there was no way to catch up to Sakura in being a medic. Sure, Ino spent time here. All combat medics were required to put in a set number of hours. If they didn't they could get their medical license suspended for a review. It wasn't that big an issue, but it was a black mark on your record that could hurt you. Someone that had this happen one too many times, and if they didn't have good reasons, well then you could get it revoked permanently. It was a good thing that going on missions went to that count. Between her training with her father, her team, and part-time work at the family store, with working some hours off here. Well, it was no wonder she had no social life until now. You really think this will work? Sakura asked, worried about it all. I mean, what if he doesn't go for your idea? That was the major issue. It would all hang on what Naruto said about the idea. Plus there were other issues as well, but they could cross those when they came to it. First the big step, then they could take the other steps after it. How many boys would actually give up on a deal this good? Ino smirked. He's getting 2 hot girls for the price of 1. Although I'm more worried about what kind of ideas he might get in his head. Sakura thought about it now. With memories of Naruto and Ino, she was finding it easier to think what either of them would think about. It was still all very weird and sometimes even a bit scary. Ever since they came here she had memories that weren't her own just pop in her head. It felt like she was losing herself and had said so to Ino. The fact that her best friend felt the same thing Sakura wasn't sure that was a relief or not. Ino did say that in time the other memories would fade a bit more and it would be easier to deal with it. Now with Ino's crazy plan, Sakura was thinking how Naruto might react. She knew of a few things that Jiraiya had tried to do to corrupt their Naruto. She would have to have some words about that with him the next time she found Unforeseen. She giggled a bit at that. She was even thinking of Jiraiya as that. What's so funny? Ino asked. I keep calling Jiraiya-sama Unforeseen in my head. Sakura admitted. Ino smiled and giggled. Yeah, same here. I can't believe he tried to push a woman on Naruto on his 15th birthday. That was a memory that Ino had come across earlier in Naruto's mind. It had happened on his training trip in some nameless village that Ino didn't recall the name of. Jiraiya had apparently thought it would be a good idea for Naruto to get some experience dealing with women. So he dragged him into one of those seedy bars and paid for a call girl to flirt and talk with Naruto for an hour. That had been something that was totally embarrassing for Naruto. He didn't know how to be with women like that, and all he got was a full-face blush and sweating from being so nervous. Although she knew that a part of him liked it, but also because he was saving himself for Sakura. Ino felt a bit jealous that Sakura had been on his mind even back then. But now she was going to change that. She was going to ensure that he thought about her as much as Sakura. Suddenly another memory popped into her mind, this of Sakura with Tsunade talking recently. Her eyes widened as she looked at her friend. Wait a minute, the Hokage and the old pervert. Ino yelled out, causing a startled Sakura to jerk back. What the hell, pig? Sakura said, annoyed, and hoped that her ears wouldn't be ringing for too long. Sorry, but I just remembered that you were talking to the Hokage about her and Unforeseen. You got to be kidding me, right? Did she actually try something with that guy? Sakura had forgotten about that. Although it hadn't been long ago, she did have other things on her mind. I honestly don't know. I haven't seen her since really, but that is something I should ask about. Then she groaned at something hit her. Ino asked what was wrong, so Sakura went into what she had been thinking. What will she do when she finds out about the three of us if your plan works? You know how protective she is of Naruto. Ino's sweat dropped at that. She hadn't even considered that. She was still trying to think how she would tell her parents that she had a boyfriend and was sharing him with Sakura. She hadn't even considered how others would react. Well, it was too late to turn back now, she thought to herself, gathering her strength. They were going to try this, and damn anyone that had a problem with it. They were just trying to be happy, and to hell what others thought. She was pretty sure their friends wouldn't abandon them or anything. Sure, it would shock the hell out of them, but they would deal. She just hoped that her parents and Sakura's could be as open-minded. Well, nothing ventured, nothing gained, right? Ino sighed. Sakura could only smile and nodded. She finished up with the healing, glad to see all physical evidence of their spar was gone. Well, that should be it. We should shower and chance. Meet up in 2 hours at Naruto's? Oh yeah, I think an extra hot shower will help with the kinks I still feel. Ino only half joked. Sure, the damage was mostly gone, but the muscles were still a bit stiff in some areas. Plus, it would give her more time to think on just how to talk to Naruto about the idea she came up with. Naruto's apartment. After his disappointing time with Kakashi and Yamato, Naruto felt like he needed to get home and just try and relax. He had been so high-strung from all of this that he couldn't think straight. So here he was laying on his bed looking up at his ceiling. The only thing he really came to the conclusion was that the place could use a new coat of paint. The white walls were boring to look at, and it just reminded him too much of all the times he was on the hospital. He wanted to get his mind off things so much that he actually cleaned his place. Well, he cleaned most of it at least. Well, it was clean for him at least. Mainly no garbage on the floor, although the sink still had some stuff in it. Nothing was wiped down or anything fancy like that. He remembered how Sakura had made sure that he didn't live like a pig after that last time she was here. He didn't know that if you leave a mess like that, roaches would show up. Plus, it was only just the one. She was the one that slipped and had his boxers fall on her head. Then again, if he hadn't left unfinished food laying around and did his laundry more, those two things wouldn't have happened. Well, that and the roach had most likely attracted to all the food. But it was just because he had been too busy lately. With all the missions and training, he just didn't have the time. Granted, when he used that excuse when she was giving him a slight beating for living in filth, she had said, then why hadn't he just used his shadow clones? Well, truth was he had just forgotten to use them for that. Plus, sometimes they didn't always do as they were told. Having exactly the same personality wasn't always a good thing. Sometimes a clone would get distracted or had an accident and dispel early. Although he had to admit that even angry Sakura always did have this nice look about her. She got this passionate expression on her face, and her eyes just seemed more alive. He sighed as his mind had just went right back to Sakura. He didn't mind it when she used her fists. At least she was the one that actually made sure he was well behaved. He never had that growing up, no parents to show him what was or what wasn't acceptable behavior. He wondered if Ino would be the same, helping to make him a better person. Damn it, now I'm thinking about Ino-chan, Naruto said as he slapped his cheeks with his hands to break his thoughts from it. Come on, think on something else for a change. What was I thinking about before? Oh yeah, new paint color. Maybe orange. Yeah, repaint my walls orange, that will be nice. No more stupid white like the stupid hospitals. Maybe a mission will take my mind off things. No, that won't work either. Sakura-chan would most likely be sent with me, and there is no way in hell I'm doing D-rank missions. Maybe I should find some of the others and just hang out? Naruto asked himself. He really needed a distraction from everything. He was about to think of something to do when a knock was heard on his door. He sighed as he got out of bed and walked to the front door. He was hoping that maybe it was one of his friends visiting. That might take his mind off things. When he opened the door, he froze at what he saw. Standing there side by side was both Sakura and Ino. It was at that moment that he truly felt that either Kami or Karma hated him. Maybe this was payback for all those pranks he pulled when he was younger. If he had known that life would get him back for it, he wouldn't have done it. "Oh, Sakura-chan, Ino-chan, what are you two doing here?" Naruto asked, nervous. He had no idea if either girl knew that they had confessed their feelings to him and kissed him. "Well, we needed to talk to you about a few things," Sakura said to him, not sure how you even approached someone with this kind of thing. Thankfully, it seemed like Ino was the one that wanted to take charge. "Yeah, so can we come in?" Ino said to him, although from the tone in her voice not letting them in wasn't an option. Naruto nodded as he backed away from the door as the two girls entered. Ino took him lightly by the arm and led him to the couch and made him sit there in the center. Ino looked around. The place could be a bit neater, but at least it was better than on its worst day. A quick look to Sakura and Ino could see the pink-haired friend was thinking the same thing. Naruto felt a little subconscious as they looked around. "Well, at least there's no food left out this time," Sakura sighed at that. It was too unhealthy for Naruto to leave food out too long. She worried about his health sometimes. Sure, the Kyuubi could heal him physically, but she wasn't sure just how far it went. It sure didn't help him from getting sick from drinking expired milk. Another memory that she had gotten from Ino's time in Naruto's head. She would have to talk to him about that time he posed as Sasuke at some point. "I've learned not to do that." Naruto scratched the back of his head. It seemed odd how something he was thinking of earlier was coming up so soon. "Well, anyways, we need to talk," Ino said to him gently. "About us, all three of us." Naruto winced. He knew this was what they were going to talk about. He wondered how they found out. Maybe one told the other and they got into another fight. Although they didn't look like they had gotten into a fight, which was good. He knew how much the friendship between Ino and Sakura went, and he didn't want him to break that bond. Bonds of friendship were one of the most precious things in life. He couldn't stand it if he caused a break in such a thing. He knew that Sakura and Ino had gone through that once already, and it took years to repair it. Naruto Sakura started up, seeing the look on his face. She knew that he was worrying about this whole thing, and she wanted to put him at ease. "Ino and I have been talking a lot, and we both think we came to a solution." "A solution?" Naruto wasn't sure to be worried or relieved that they had thought of something. He just hoped that it wasn't going to be something like he had to pick one then and there. Why, yes, Sakura felt very nervous about this. It was a huge step for them all, but it was the best way to deal with things. "See, both Ino and myself really care about you, Naruto. We both want to be with you, and we understand that you don't want to hurt either of us. We don't want to hurt you either and won't make you choose between us." Naruto let out a small breath he hadn't known he had been holding. He was so relieved to know that they weren't going to make him choose. "Yeah, you see, we both went through that with Sasuke-kun," Ino sighed, remembering all the lost years of their friendship. "So don't want to go through that again. So here's our proposal." She took a breath as she readied herself. She felt her heart hammering in her chest from her nerves. Ino also could tell that Sakura was the same way. This was the moment of truth. "Sakura and I, well, we came to an agreement. If you want, we'll share you." There, she had said it. She had put the offer out on the table and only waited for Naruto to say something. There was a long, ugly pause as Sakura and Ino waited for his response. Naruto had the same look on his face for a fully minute, and both girls were starting to worry. Finally, Naruto said something. "Huh?" Both girls nearly fell over at that unexpected word that was not what they wanted to hear, as now their nervousness was being replaced by irritation. "What do you mean by huh?" Sakura said forcefully. "We said you can date the both of us and we'll share you between us, and that's all you say?" "Geez, Naruto, do we have to spell it out?" Ino said to him, crossing her arms. "You're both serious?" Naruto wasn't sure if this was really happening. He never thought that he could date both of them. Wasn't it wrong to do something like that, or was it just to date two girls at once if they didn't know about it? He was sure the last one was wrong, but they did come to him with this idea and they seemed pretty serious about it. That's right, we've talked about it and well, it's the only option really. Sakura said with a shrug. We both care for you and we don't want the other to lose out. It avoids all the heartache and pain as well with just picking one. Plus I'm okay if it's with Ino. Yeah, we're comfortable doing this together. Ino stated as she placed a hand on Sakura's shoulder to show how firm they were in this belief to him. Naruto saw how close they were together and something Jiraiya had introduced him to once stuck in his mind. Mainly, it went back to their training trip when he tried to drag his mentor out of the red light district for some training. He had to go into one of those bars that he liked to hang out in and he found him with a girl on each arm as they were laughing and drinking. This was after the incident with his birthday and that woman. Something he still couldn't think about without blushing. But anyway, he had seen the women kiss him on the cheeks. He had said something and both girls laughed as they leaned in and kissed each other. It was Naruto's first look at girl-on-girl action. Later when he did manage to get Jiraiya out of there, he had asked what was going on. The old man just laughed it off, saying that sometimes people liked more than just one type of person. Plus others were comfortable showing it. He also said that having two girls who were totally okay with each other in that way was a guy's ultimate dream. Naruto didn't understand it until this moment as that image came into mind. He replaced the image with Sakura and Ino. That got him a slightly blush and nosebleed. When you say together, do you mean? He trailed off, not sure he could even finish it. Ino gave Sakura a look as she smiled. Well, you know, Naruto-kun, I have to admit that Sakura-chan is a nice-looking girl. Maybe we should try something out. Ino slowly moved herself closer to Sakura, who to Naruto's shock wasn't moving at all. In fact, she looked to encourage this action. Naruto was on his seat, literally, watching as the two girls were moving ever slowly closer together. Just as their lips were about to touch, they quickly turned to face him. They stuck out their tongues and pulled one of their lower eyelids down at him. Naruto fell off his couch to hear the girls laughing. See, told you he'd think we would do something like that, Ino said as she helped Naruto up and placed him back in his seat. Honestly, Naruto, Sakura and I are straight. What in the world would you think that just because we agree to share you automatically means we're bi? Naruto, you should have known better, Sakura said with a smile. Naruto was currently pouting at being tricked, which just looked so cute to Sakura at that moment. He looked all innocent and childish, almost like he was that young loud boy she had known in school again. But ever the prankster Naruto had to admit that they did get him good with that. So in the name of his good humor he took it as he smiled at them. Good one, but are you serious about me seeing you both? Won't that be weird, and how will that work? Sakura and Ino shared a look as Sakura spoke. We're not totally sure. Yeah, there's not really any set rules for something like this. Ino tried to smile, but it wasn't working. Both girls had no real idea how something like this worked out. There were no rules or guide to any of this. I guess we just play it by ear and see what works and what doesn't. Naruto guessed that made sense. He had no idea how you even began this kind of relationship. Well, as long as it's fair. I mean, I like both Ino-chan and Sakura-chan, and I don't want to put one of you in front of the other. Both girls smiled at that. That was the kind of thing that made them like him so much. He always put others in front of himself. To make sure others were happy was a very noble trait, but he always seemed to sacrifice his own. Well, they were going to make sure that all the years he lost out would be given back to him. Ino smirked as went over and she slid up to Naruto's left and snuggled against him. He blushed at the close contact as she did so. Sakura, not wanting to be outdone, did the same, only to Naruto's right. Well, how's this for a start? Ino asked him, seeing his face turn a full shade of red. Very nice. Naruto said, not sure if he trusted himself to say more. When he first noticed that girls were really nice, he had hoped for something like this. Girls were soft and smelled nice, and now he had two of them resting against him. He could smell Ino's hair, she smelled of flowers, and the skin he could feel was very soft. Sakura shifted a bit and he could smell something like cherries. Now that we got that out of the way, there is only one major step left. Sakura sighed as she wished it was step they didn't have to do. What's that, Sakura-chan? Naruto asked. Telling our parents about this, Sakura said flatly, and Naruto's happy mood dropped. Naruto liked that Haruno family and he wasn't sure how they would react to this. The thing was, he hadn't met Ino's parents yet. That might actually work against him too. Then there was how everyone would think about it. He wasn't worried for the most part. Mainly how Tsunade might feel and what she might say about it. Thanks for killing the mood, forehead, Ino muttered. It had to be said, we can't pretend the problem isn't there. Sakura said back as she pushed off Naruto to face Ino. Ino did the same as she mirrored Sakura's actions. Yeah, I know, but couldn't we at least enjoy the moment for a bit before you drag it down? Someone has to be the responsible one. You're saying I'm not responsible? What about that first plant you tried to take care of? Sakura smirked as she was using some of Ino's own memories against her. She had a memory of Ino as a young girl that was tasked with taking care of a plant. She kept forgetting to water it and it had nearly died. I was a kid, Ino said in her defense. Wait a minute, Naruto said quickly, trying to get between the two. Can we not argue for the moment? We can deal with it later, but we should deal with it at some point. He figured that getting both points across would help calm them down. He also suddenly got a feeling that the downside to this new relationship that he was going to have to play referee between the two when they got like this. For a moment he wasn't sure what would happen, but slowly the girls moved back into their previous spots. Naruto sighed. This was definitely going to get some getting used to. You know, now that we got all this out of the way, there are some good things about this, Ino smirked as she faced Naruto. Huh? Naruto said as Ino got a bit closer. Then he felt Ino's lips on his own. They were just as soft, and this wasn't like the kiss from before. This one was slow, and she was taking her time enjoying it. After a slight shock, he closed his eyes as he felt himself fall into the kiss. She felt Ino's hand on his cheek as she made a small pleasured sound from kissing him. Naruto lost all track of time as he got the best kiss in his life. Ino, don't hog him all, Sakura snapped as she had been patiently waiting for her turn. Ino pulled back, feeling the blush on her cheeks. That had been a very good kiss. She wondered if it was because things between them were just right or if Naruto was just naturally a good kisser. Now she saw Naruto's dazed expression when Sakura turned his head and watched Sakura and Naruto kiss. Ino would have felt some kind of jealousy normally, but she trusted Sakura and Naruto. She laid her head on his shoulder as her hand rubbed his chest, watching them. When they pulled back, both were blushing and smiling at each other. So how was it, Naruto-kun? Ino asked, teasing him. Naruto could only grin. Maybe this wouldn't be so bad after all. Chapter 12, Dropping the Bombshell. Sakura took a breath. It had been a day since Ino and Naruto decided to try for relationship between the three of them. But now came the really hard part, telling her parents. She knew she could just not tell them until later, but given how fast news traveled, they were bound to hear. Then they would be angry with her for not telling them. Not to say that they might not be totally pleased with things. But both she and Ino agreed to tell their parents, and then the Hokage, then their friends. Although at the moment she wanted to tell her parents last. At least her friends she could deal with. The Hokage, well, that would be a challenge, but this was the hardest one. So why in the hell was she started off with this? Maybe it was the medic in her to get it over with as quickly as possible, like pulling off a band-aid. So she gathered her courage with a deep breath and walked out of her room into her home to look for her parents. She had a feeling where they would be at this time in the day. Since the home was only one floor, it took her only a minute to find them. Motetsugu and Saki Haruno were looking over some papers on a table in the living room. They were doing the monthly inventory, what they had, what they sold, and what they would need to buy. Her father was a very good businessman and great with people. But her mother always was the best when it came to the numbers and what could they get cheaper somewhere and sold it for a profit here. Sometimes her parents joked that the business they ran helped keep their marriage going. Can I have a word with you too? Sakura asked, a little nervous, and given her situation, could you blame her? What is it, dear? Her mother asked, looking up from the papers with her father. Well, you see, it's about Naruto and myself, she muttered. It was mainly about them to herself. Her mother got a knowing smile, seeing how flustered her daughter was. Oh, so you two got together? She nearly laughed, seeing Sakura's surprised look. Oh please, I knew there was something going on. Like the way you two kept stealing looks when you thought the other wasn't looking, for starters. Then there was how comfortable you two were. We both knew it was only a matter of time. I was that obvious? Sakura sighed. At the time she hadn't been sure just how strong her emotions had been. But her parents knew even before she did? If it was so obvious, then how come it took all this time for her to see it? Anyway, that wasn't the biggest news that she had to pull off. Well, he was a nice boy, her father smiled at her. So if you're worried we might not approve, don't worry about it. Yes, and please invite him over to dinner again. I enjoyed having him over. Her mother chimed in. Well, you see, there's something else, Sakura said nervously. You see, Ino fell for him too, and well. Oh no, not this again, her father sighed, leaning back in his chair. He remembered how moody she had been the first week of the break-up in her friendship with Ino. Oh dear, please don't tell me you two are no longer friends again, Mrs. Haruno said to her. She remembered how happy Sakura had been the first day she had made her first friend in Ino. Then when the two split apart over a boy, Sakura hadn't been as happy in life. Sure, she tried to hide it, but she could see that Sakura had been lonely all that time. Without her best friend, Sakura just seemed incomplete. Well, no, we kind of learned our lesson over fighting for boys, Sakura said in all honesty. So we kind of came to a decision. What was it? Her father asked, looking slightly confused. He felt something was going on. His daughter said that she was going out with Naruto. So did Ino give up for them? If so, he didn't understand why his daughter seemed to be so nervous. Well, you see, Ino and myself, we came to the conclusion that since we didn't want anyone to get hurt and that Naruto wouldn't want to hurt someone by rejecting them, we both went to Naruto with an offer. Ino and myself said that he could date both of us. She cringed saying that last bit. She really had tried to think of a way to make this seem like a good idea. But hearing it come out like that made her rethink how she went about it. There was a silence there as her parents just looked at her. Her father just stared at her while her mother stood up quickly. Sakura Haruno, what in the world are you talking about? Sakura nearly whimpered, knowing where this was going. This was going to be a very long talk, but she just hoped that things could get them to accept it. It turned out that it wouldn't be easy, to say the least. For 2 hours Sakura talked with her parents, defending her choices and made sure that it was her choice to accept this. She laid out all her reasons out on the table. Her parents did try to understand her reasoning, although it was a bit hard. Are you sure you want to do this? Sakura's mother sighed as she saw her daughter was set on this course of action. Yes, I am. I know it's a strange arrangement, but we're willing to at least try it out, Sakura said. Her father grunted, as long as Naruto doesn't try to take advantage of this whole thing. Daddy, trust me, Naruto would never take advantage of anyone. I don't think it's in his nature anyway. I just wanted you two to know what is going on. I didn't want any ugly rumors hitting you without knowing the truth. But I am happy with this arrangement. Well, as long as you're happy, her father sighed and ran a hand through his hair. He swore this whole thing would give him a few gray ones later tonight. His young daughter was growing up, but certainly not in the way he thought she would. Well, she was pretty much a grown woman at this point, and he would trust her judgment. Besides, he did get a good feeling when he met Naruto. He just hoped his trust wouldn't be misplaced. For Ino, she was wishing that things had gone over more smoothly. Things started off well enough. She told her parents she got herself a boyfriend. Her mother was understandably giddy at it. This was her only daughter's first boyfriend. Boy, would she be in for a surprise later about the circumstances around it. Then her father seemed interested, asking who it was. When she said it was Naruto Uzumaki, she hadn't known what to expect. She honestly had no idea what her parents thought of him. Sure, things had changed since Naruto was a kid. A lot of his achievements had changed the views of a lot of people. Thankfully, her parents actually seemed pleased with it. Her mother had gone on about how nice it would be to meet him. She heard a lot about the boy lately. Her father just smiled at her, saying that she at least picked a decent boy. Of course, before anything else, she had to explain the major issue with it, mainly that she wasn't the only girlfriend Naruto had at the moment. The silence that followed was one that Ino never wanted to sit through again. Just waiting for the blow-up was hard enough. When it happened, it had been her mother at first who asked the most important thing. Why? It was kind of funny in a way when her mother said that. So she went into a very lengthy explanation. How she had tried to go into Naruto's mind for a payback prank. She caught the worried look in her father's face. She had a feeling he would know about the 9 tails, but her mother didn't seem to know. Most likely because of the secret was to be kept. Her father never told her mother the truth. That was a good thing for Naruto, that some people could actually keep their mouths shut. Anyways, she didn't go into much detail. Only that she got stuck, and somehow when he fell asleep, he helped her to get out. She could see her father was reading between the lines. Thankfully, her mother didn't know about the mind jutsus that came from his side of the family. So her mother just accepted it, although she did berate Ino for trying something like that, then to her surprise turned on her husband for not teaching their daughter better. So she went into how she had started to fall for him and about how Sakura had come to accept her own feelings for Naruto as well at that time. She could just by telling on the faces of her parents they were thinking the same thing. Oh no, not this again. So then she got into how she and Sakura were starting to compete, but then how they decided that neither one wanted to hurt the other. When she had to explain that part in depth, it was her father's turn to get mad. He had told her not to use that jutsu yet. In fact, he went into a long lecture on the dangers of their mind abilities once again. He also said that he was going to personally see to it that she trained better so that something like this wouldn't happen again. It was a lot like with Sakura's parents. In the end, they agreed that they would accept it. Although they did demand that they at least meet Naruto at some point, as they wanted to see him for themselves. Ino had to agree to this. Hopefully she could put it off until they were calm enough for it. At least that was her hope. Hokage's office Tsunade was having a stressful day. There was just so much work to do. Thankfully she had someone that was helping her to get through it well, besides Shizun, that is. Currently she felt the strong hands of her teammate and now lover rubbing the tension out of her shoulders. It really did help keep things calm, and it felt great. Especially when Jiraiya added a little chakra into his hands. This made them warm while also easing the muscles in her body. I should look into putting this technique of yours into physical therapy, Tsunade smiled, feeling him. Well, I'm certain I can give you enough lessons. In fact, I got a few more tricks with this I can show you. He leaned down and whispered into her ear. Although I doubt hearing the Hokage cry out in passion would let us be alone for long. So we might want to wait for tonight. She blushed, remembering a few things he had shown her. Apparently those dirty books of his must have been inventive. If only they were 20 or 30 years younger back in her prime, she was sure that the two of them could have had some amazing times. Well, not that it wasn't bad to say the least. She shook her head, seeing where her thoughts were going. God, his perverted nature is already rubbing off me. She thought, slightly irritated at that notion. Outside, Naruto was being pushed by a certain long-haired blonde and short-haired pinkette. Do we really have to tell her now? Naruto whined. He really wasn't looking forward to explaining this. Yes. Both girls said at the same time. After what we had to go through with our parents, this is the least you can do, Ino told him, shoving him along. And do you honestly think I want to go through with this? Sakura asked, knowing full well just how scary her master could be. She shuddered, remembering how sometimes when Tsunade was either hung over or cranky from lack of sleep, the training she gave Sakura had been a nightmare. Ino had been lucky she couldn't get through past the basic medical training and not into the combat classes. Naruto knew he couldn't escape, as they seemed to be keeping an eye on him just in case he tried anyway. When he came to the door, he sighed. Normally he'd just bust in loudly, but for the first time he actually knocked. He heard some kind of muffled sounds and smoothing that sounded like Tsunade snapping at someone. It kind of sounded like "stop it already" or something like that. She called out to enter, and Naruto came walking in with the two girls. Tsunade raised an eyebrow at this. Since when did Naruto actually bother to knock on her door? Had the boy finally started to learn some manners? She made a mental note to check her lottery ticket number for the day. She noticed Ino and Sakura there with him. Them together with Naruto. Already the dots were being connected in her mind. She cast a quick glance to Jiraiya, and she could tell he was doing the same connections. So what can I do for you three? Tsunade asked them, masking her thoughts. She honestly didn't know what would happen now. Were the three of them going to ask for advice or for a referee? She could see that all three of them were nervous, although there was no hostility in the girls. That was odd. Last time she saw them, they were all but trying to kill themselves, trying to prove who was better. Now she could see a total difference in them. Something had happened, that much she could tell, but what had happened, that was the real question. Well, as you know, there was something going on between Sakura-chan, Ino-chan, and myself, Naruto said. Yes, I remember, Tsunade said with a nod. I take it that you three finally came to a conclusion. It wasn't a question, as it was more a statement. She was very interested to know what they came up with. And she could sense that much in Jiraiya as well. Yeah, Naruto scratched the back of his head. It's like this: Sakura-chan and Ino-chan said that if I wanted to, I could date both of them. So we kind of are doing that. Pure silence was in the room as what Naruto said registered into the minds of the two adults. Tsunade managed to get over the shock first. This was not what she expected to happen. Jiraiya, take Naruto out into the hall while I talk with the girls, she said in a controlled manner. Jiraiya cast a look, but he could tell this was a time to shut up and do what the boss said. He walked to the door, managing to grab Naruto by the arm and drag him out. Now that she was alone with the two girls, she got into a more serious mode. She gave the girls a long, hard, and very silent look. She could see them fidget a bit, which was good. She wanted them nervous. Okay, you two better explain things, and I better like the answer, she said simply. Well, mainly we didn't want to ruin our friendship over a boy, Ino said, not liking the look she was getting. It was like, if she said the wrong thing, the Hokage would come at her. And that was enough to scare anyone that knew what Tsunade could do. Well, ruin it again, Sakura said, seeing Ino pause, knowing that dragging this out wouldn't be any good to either of them. We both came to the conclusion that we both care for Naruto. We both want to be with him, but we also knew that Naruto wouldn't pick one over the other. He's just too nice a guy to hurt anyone in this kind of situation. He likes us both, but wasn't sure who he liked more. So we kind of made the choice easier, Ino said, trying to smile, but seeing Tsunade's serious expression, she just couldn't muster one. We already told our parents this, and we got a very long talk. No kidding, Sakura sighed, remembering this. She made a point to make sure her parents got used to the idea before inviting Naruto over anytime soon. Ino had to nod her own head, remembering her own talks with her parents. She still would have to go for extra training with her father because of what she did with Sakura. Basically, we both really like him and we didn't want to live without trying to have a relationship, Sakura said to her master seriously. Ino is the closest thing to a sister I have in this world and I just don't want to ruin that again. Plus I really like Naruto, we both do, and so we both felt that the only way out would be to share him with the other. I know this is weird, I'll say it is, Tsunade said, breaking into the conversation for the first time. So instead, you both felt this was the only choice, huh? The only one where no one gets hurt, Ino offered. Plus I trust Sakura and Naruto, and they trust me. Ino looked to Sakura and saw her friend nod her head in agreement. Ino looked back to the Hokage, getting a bit more steel in her belly. We both want him and he wants us, we're adults and we can have a relationship with him, as unorthodox as it is, if we choose to. We know it won't be easy, but it just feels alright to us. Tsunade sighed as she rubbed the bridge of her nose. This younger generation was going to be the death of her. She just knew it. But in the end she just wanted Naruto to be happy. The boy meant a lot to her. He was like a surrogate son/little brother to her, must in the way he was with Jiraiya as well. During that talk with Sakura on the bridge on that one day, she had never expected this outcome. So you two are serious about all of this? Tsunade, she asked, seeing them both nod. I hope you all take responsibilities with this. And I don't want this to affect your ninja duties. I don't want to hear or see that this will put any of you in danger. Having normal relationships between ninja can be tough enough. This I can't even think of all the things that could come up. We know, and we also know that we have no idea what we can expect, Ino said honestly. But we want to at least try this out. Naruto makes us happy and we want to make him happy. If that means I have to share him with Sakura, well, I can live with that. Naruto already promised not to put one of us ahead of the other, which is fair. Tsunade sighed as she leaned back into her chair. At least they weren't asking for something like being put onto the same team. She knew that some couples tried that out, but thankfully they weren't doing it. It was at least one thing she didn't have to deal with. This whole thing was just odd, but if this was what Naruto and the girls wanted, she would allow it. She did want Naruto to be happy, she just hoped that he knew what he was getting into. Then again, it might be fun to see him deal with these two when things got rough. Fine, well, I'm glad at least this whole issue has been settled, Tsunade said as she leaned forward on her desk. You both know how important Naruto is to me, so I don't think I need to go into that. You two better treat him well. Because I know he will do everything he can for you too. So be sure you don't take advantage of his good nature. Are we clear, ladies? Yes, ma'am. Both girls said, straightening up a bit. The look and feel coming off the village leader told them that this was no idle threat. If they hurt Naruto, they could expect divine punishment from the Hokage. Tsunade smiled at them and leaned back into her chair with a smile. Good to know. Both girls let out a breath as Sakura took a moment to look at Tsunade. So, I see that Master Jiraiya was already in here. You two look to have been very comfortable with each other. Ino smirked as she saw Tsunade starting to blush a bit. Oh yeah, so I take it things between you two are going well then? Tsunade wished things hadn't been turned around on her like this. She wasn't the one to be put on the spot. Out in the hallway, master and apprentice were both standing in silence. That is until Jiraiya spoke up. You know this won't be easy, right? Yeah, I kind of got that idea already, Naruto told him honestly. Well, trust me, since you three only just started, there is a lot more to it. Jiraiya said in a very rare case of being serious. It was odd for Naruto to see his master this serious about the subject. If you three are on a mission and both the girls are in danger, what would you do? What if you could only save one? Would you pick one over the other or freeze up, not sure who to pick? Naruto was shocked by his words. He hadn't thought about that. Could he pick one over the other like that? He knew that he couldn't do that. Both were precious to him. He would rather sacrifice himself rather than one of them. But what if something like that happened? Plus, it wasn't like he could protect them if one was sent on another mission while he was elsewhere. He and Sakura were on the same team, so they would most likely be paired up most of the time. But Ino would go out on a lot of missions without him if things stayed like this. He looked down as he thought about this. He couldn't be there for them all the time. Sometimes he might be placed on different teams than either girl. What would he do if one of them didn't come back? Jiraiya could see that his charge was thinking about this, but he needed to be sure that Naruto was making the right choice. And what about down the line? What if the girls want to get married or start a family? Will you pick one over the other? That's a little soon, isn't it? Naruto asked him. We don't know if this will last. I mean, this is my first time in a relationship. Now I got 2 girlfriends and I still don't know what that will mean. Even if it was just one of them, I wouldn't know what to do. He sighed as he really thought about the situation. He knew that this was very unfamiliar territory for all 3 of them. But in his heart he wanted to be with both of them. They made him feel complete and loved. They helped to fill a hole in him that he hadn't really known had been there. They were his most precious and he would fight for them, that much he knew. He looked up at his teacher with determination. I know that things won't be easy. I know that we don't know what we're really doing. But I care for Sakura-chan and Ino-chan, and I don't care what anyone else thinks. We're together and I want to make them as happy as they make me. Jiraiya looked at Naruto for a moment before grinning. It seemed that he was becoming a man this day. That was something that he could respect. He clasped a hand onto his shoulder. Well, at any rate, good luck with this. Just one girl can be a handful, so I know that this will be hard. But you've never been one to do things the easy way. Naruto grinned up at the taller man at that. So then, out of curiosity, Jiraiya said, leaning in a bit. Just how far have you 3 gone? I mean, 2 girls at once is a man's dream. Please tell me that you've at least got to feel the difference. I bet that blonde girl is nice and full, but maybe your pink-haired girl is pretty firm. Naruto blinked, not sure what he was getting at least at first. Then he blushed as he thought about it and took a step back from him. Damn it, don't talk about them like that, Eros-nin. Too bad not at that level, huh? He sighed and then giggled. Tell me if I'm right, kid, this could be a nice little idea for a book. I'm not telling you anything. Come on, if you can't tell me that, who will you tell? Not you. Jiraiya suddenly got anime-style waterfall tears as he looked happy at that moment. To think that my apprentice managed to get 2 girls who were okay with him dating both at the same time. You are a true genius. You are my pride as a master. You got to at least tell me how you pulled this one off. Naruto just grumbled. He hoped the girls would be out soon. Later, Naruto, Ino and Sakura were at the ramen stand. After everything, they needed a break from everyone. Plus, Naruto needed something to eat to calm his nerves, and nothing did that like ramen from his favorite place. Although when Ino and Sakura started acting close to him, this meant that they had to tell Ayame and her father what was going on. You'd think that after today, seeing the reactions would get old, but it wasn't. Ayame had grabbed Naruto's ear and demanded why he was becoming a playboy and toying with the hearts of young women. Thankfully, Sakura and Ino could convince her that it had actually been their idea and that it was okay. Her father hadn't known what to make of it, but if his best customer was happy, then nothing else mattered. Although in his heart he wished the boy luck, he'd need it. So here they were just eating, trying to forget all the trouble they had gone through, and it was only the first day of their relationship too. They hoped things would get easier from this point on. Are you girls sure about this? Ayame asked as she refilled Naruto's bowl. I can't imagine this will be easy. And what about you, Naruto? You sure you can keep these girls happy? Well, I'll try my best, Naruto told her. I may not know much about relationships, but I do know that I like Sakura-chan and Ino-chan, and I'll do everything in my power to make them happy. That caused both girls to smile at him because they knew that he meant every word that he said. Ino snuggled up to him at that point, and don't forget it works both ways, Naruto-kun. Sakura and myself will do our best to make you happy too, isn't that right? Ino asked Sakura. Sakura nodded as she mirrored Ino, although blushing slightly. She still wasn't as forward as Ino was, but she could do it. Yes, and remember Naruto, we're all in this together. That's right, Ino nodded. We share everything. Pain, pleasure, joy, sadness, everything. Naruto felt his cheeks heat up at this. Feeling them both like this was very nice, plus he felt a warmth in his chest at Ino's words. It was nice to think that he had not one but two people that would be there for him. It felt like they filled him, as he knew that he would have them in his life. It was kind of like when he was first put into Team 7. He felt like he was a part of something for the first time in his life, only now it seemed even bigger and better than that. He was part of something special, of that he had no doubt. Although he had no idea how long this might last, he hoped it would be for a very long time. Sakura relaxed as she got used to it, slipping her arm in his as she rested her head on his shoulder, looking up at him. He really had matured over the years. Sure, he was still a kid at heart, but that was part of his charm. She had seen the bravery he had, always pushing himself to be accepted and never letting others tell him who or what he was. She envied that. She had wished she had his spirit when she was younger. Plus he had become handsome over the years. All the baby fat was gone, something she had noticed when he first got back. But she did feel comfortable with Naruto here, even with Ino. On the other side, there was no real jealousy, because she knew that Naruto's heart was big enough for them both. Ino liked the feel of his arm and shoulder as she was mirroring Sakura on his other side. Naruto was a good man. She had never seen him other than the loud-mouthed ninja who claimed would become Hokage. She now saw the real Naruto, the one on the inside, and she liked what she saw. Hey guys, what's going on? A new voice called to them as they looked over their shoulder as Kakashi and Yamato walked in. Both men looked at the scene. They had been looking for Naruto, hoping to see how things had gone. By the looks of each girl on an arm, and neither of them fighting, said it all to them. Kakashi wasn't sure if he should laugh or not. Somehow Naruto once again surprised him by coming up with a very unexpected way to resolve his problem. One of these days he was going to learn not to be surprised by his student. I don't believe it, Yamato said, looking at the scene, turning to Kakashi. How does he do it? Kakashi only smiled with a chuckle. No idea. Well, looks like things are going well. We were a little worried yesterday, but I'm glad to see that things are working out between you three. The three teens blushed a bit and nodded. Kakashi chuckled at the sight. Well, we'll leave you three alone for now. Kakashi knew that the three would want some alone time, so he and Yamato left the stand. They walked down the road as Kakashi couldn't stop the smile behind his mask. You know, I think we're going to gain some interesting times. I'm more worried when the fights and arguments start. Hopefully he'll be able to get through that. How long do you think this will last, senpai? Kakashi thought about it as they wandered the road. You know, I honestly don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if he can find a way for this to last, to be honest. Only time will tell.
Thank you for your views, likes, subscriptions, and overall support of my ongoing efforts to bring great content to all of you. Check out my Patreon for more mature fanfiction. The link is in the description and like everywhere on my channel.